Shalom, when the stuff was but given no praise to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Most High, and honors to you brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, of whom the world English calls God, Jehovah, Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. Son's true name is Yahushua. And when we pray Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, but in Ha meaning that, and Sham meaning names, Yahweh in the name of Yahushua. Real quick, yeah, technicalities ain't going to let you get off scot-free, right? This is one of the things that we understand, about the scriptures, right? The Most High, is all about balancing the scales. This is Galatians 6, verse 7. So be not deceived, the Most High has not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So you have a load of Edomites that, are guilty. They got blood on their hands, right? Yet they so-called never suffered. You look at Elizabeth Windsor as an example, right? She, died, had a state funeral, right? But we know that she got up to all manner of wickedness. Same with Philip, right? Philip Windsor, the way that he also died, and it was just peaceful, in quotes, right? So you think, of all of the wickedness that we know that they have done. Of course, it's not mainstream knowledge, right? But we know that those individuals did all manner of wickedness, and you think that the Most High is just going to let that go? No, is the answer, right? And we just read this in Galatians 6 and 7 to get into that, right? Let's see some of the precepts that we have, right? So let's read Psalms 9 and 16. It says, the Yahweh is known by the judgment which he executeth. Once again, right? All of the wickedness that those Edomites did on the plantations, right? All of the wickedness that was done throughout the world. The Lord is basically what's the word I'm looking for? The Lord basically will balance the scales. Okay, I don't remember if I actually read this comment, right? But this is on the video that I did the other day, True Reparations, right? It says, Scoffer says, true reparations is actual proven victims who have suffered actual tangible harm from the violations of individual rights being compensated by their actual violators. So basically he's basically saying it wasn't me. That was basically what he was saying. It wasn't me, right? But this is what you have to understand. You are your forefathers. I am my forefathers, right? And even as a nation, as the children of Israel, we went into captivity together, right? What is that precept? Let me see. Might be a load of these. Can't actually think how else it's phrased. Right, because point is, like, the children of Israel, when we went into captivity, as a nation, right? I have no idea how I'm gonna find this. I forget how it's phrased. Let me check the Googles. So it said what is it saying? It's in Jeremiah 30, which is not coming up here. Let's see what Jeremiah 30 says. Jeremiah 30. 3. No, I can't think of how it's phrased, Salakia, but right, as a nation, we went into captivity as a whole, right? It wasn't just the layman of the people, right? It was from the highest to the lowest. So as these heathens, they think that they're gonna get away scot-free, but the answer is no, they ain't. Right, so back in Psalms 9:16, right, it says, Yahweh is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higayon Salah. And that's it, right? Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. And when you're looking at this, the modern day plans of these elites, they're thinking that they're going to do this and they're going to do that, not understanding that everything that they're doing is ultimately for the sake of their own downfall, which is beautiful to see, which is beautiful to witness. Okay, so that's why when they're bringing about and working on the MOTB infrastructure, we're clapping them along, right? We're saying, hey, carry on, do it, because they think that it's for their agenda, right? They think that they're gonna come close, but we understand this, right? In Job, right? It says Job 20 and 23, when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So we understand that he has to get close. He has to get to, in fact, let me read a bit more into this. Verse 22 I want as well, right? It says Job 20 and 22, in the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits, right? Straits representing a point of difficulty, right? It says every hand of the wicked, right? Which when you look into this word Imal, H6001, right? Laborer, sufferer, wretched one, right? So a laborer, right? Talking about Israel, right? Shall come upon him. It says, let's read this piece. Imal meaning laborer, James 5 and 4, right? It says, behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. Right, and cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. Right, so we can link them up in the precepts that way, right? Verse 23, so when he is about to fill his belly, so once again, he has to appear like he's getting close. Right, which is beautiful, right? They'll show you that in the films. And that's why they're rushing. That is why they're rushing, right? Revelation 12 and 12, cometh down, with great wrath, no, but that he hath but a short time. Right? That's why these elites are rushing, because they can see that the writing was on the wall for them. Goes on to say, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. So that's it. Right, so back in Psalms 96, yeah, the wicked is snared in the work of his own hand. So Esau's work, right, that the Lord is ultimately using him for, right, because what does it say in Psalms as well, right? It says, Psalm 17:13 says, arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So the Lord is putting it in the spirit of these elites to bring about this NWO, because part of bringing about this NWO is destruction upon our people. Right, we can read that as well if we jump over to Ezekiel 21 and 9, right? From 9 rather, it says, Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, a sword is sharpened and also furbished, right? Word furbished, they're going into like polish, and always think of the example of to polish a skill, to polish a craft. Okay, Esau has perfected the sword. He's when you look at the different manners in which he can kill you, right? That's why we need protection. That's why we need protection from Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, right? Psalms 91 goes on to say in verse 10, it is sharpened to make a sore slaughter, it is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree. As he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. The sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. Okay, and who's he going to slay? Well, it goes on to say, crying how, Son of man, for it shall be upon my people, it shall be upon all the princes of Israel. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite therefore upon thy thigh. And once again, it's because a load of our people are just wicked, and they need to be judged, and this is how they're going to be judged, right? The Lord is using this Edomite, but the scripture says, Esau shall not go unpunished for basically basically being the Lord's whooping stick, right? The Lord is going to still judge him for that, right? So once again, as the fact that the whole of Israel, went into captivity, right? We suffering in this pain, right? Suffering and being in the low position that we're in. Guess what, right? The Lord is the one that did that, but not only that, right? The Lord is going to punish those that did that, right? In fact, what is that one? I know it's furthered the affliction. What are you talking about? Forwarded the affliction. Right, this is Zechariah 1 and 15. I am very displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. right? So we were given into your hand, yeah, but you went too far. All right, Ezekiel 35 from 5 says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel, by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh, saith the Lord power, says, I'll prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, sith thou hast not hated blood. So since you don't hate blood, even blood shall pursue thee. And Esau has no issue spilling blood. That's why, so, once again, when you're hearing like Professor Zhang and all of them man speak, they speak a lot about the need for fertilizer in the modern world. And basically it was a video that he made. He was like, yeah, well, without modern fertilizer, the population of the earth can only be 2 billion, as in the way that they understand the world. Okay, because when you read the scriptures, this is Isaiah 54 and 2, right? It says, enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth from the curtains of thine habitation. Spare not, lengthen the cords, and strengthen thy stakes. And this is going into the fact that the earth itself will be enlarged. And why will it be enlarged? Because you're going to have a lot of people, primarily the Israelites. I mean, the Israelites, we're going to live forever, but we're going to have a lot of people on the face of planet Earth, right? So this whole thing about Earth can only sustain, that's just an Edomitism. Okay, the Lord is going work a work, right? But the point being is, in Esau's studies, in Esau's teachings, right, he likes to push this idea that without modern fertilizer, we couldn't support 8 billion people, we could only support 2. But it's just like, yeah, because these elites, they want to kill off more than that. Okay, blood doesn't mean anything to them. It goes on to say, therefore as I live, saith the Lord power, prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Thus will I make Mount Seir desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. It says, and I will fill his mountains with slain men, in thy hills and in thy valleys, and in thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. And it's gonna be it's gonna be it's just gonna be a lot, right? It's gonna be a lot of death, right? In fact, what does it say? And this is just even hit. It's in 2 Ezra 16, 23. It says, I'll read into it. Right? It says 2 Ezra 16. I think you end up reading all of it. I'll start from 17. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? So the times that we're coming into are calamitous times. There's going to be a lot going on, right? The elites like to use polycrises, but no, the Lord's with the polycrisis. It says, verse 18, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine, plague, and tribulation, and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, right, victuals shall be so good cheap on earth, and that's what you're seeing. Even though prices are going up in comparison to what they will be, right? Where things are good, right? So it says that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. And where the times we're coming into, man, there's just going to be a lot of death, right? To the point where right now you see, if you're in the West, you see it where it's just like, if like for instance cyclists, right? That's something that happens in London, not a lot, but enough where you hear of it, right? It'll be like one cyclist gets hit, and then you've got a whole load of ambulances, fire trucks, blue tent, forensics, and this, that, and the other. In that time, you're not going to have any of that, right? It's going to be like in the third world where just like in Gaza, man's just dead, right? You just see a hand sticking out of rubble, right? Those are the times that are coming to this world, right? One, because he really don't mind spilling blood, okay? But going back to the actual comment, I've not dealt with it much. But one of the things that we understand in the scriptures, right, is the Most High is all about righting wrongs. Scripture says it was at Proverbs 11, right? A false balance is abomination to Yahweh, but a just way is his delight. So the Most High is all about balance, okay? And so all of that wickedness that's happened in the world, right? Guess what? The Lord is going to balance the scales, right? It says Ecclesiastes 3:15, that which hath been is now, and that which is to be hath already been. The Most High requireth that which is past. So the things that have been before, the Most High is all about it, okay? The Most High is like, all right, cool. Then this is going into reincarnation, which is a core concept in the scriptures, right? And if building on that, right, verse 16 says, moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there, right? So the earth is where you get judged, not no hell, right? So when you look into, the way, things are, right? So let's go to, Ecclesiastes 12. Where is it? No, Ecclesiastes 12 and 7 says, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto the Most High who gave it. And that's it. No, it just goes into that. And then there's a precept as well. I forget exactly what it is, but I think I actually remember. Okay, no, it actually is there as a precept a lot. All right, 2 Corinthians 5 and 10 says, for we must all, so first things first, right? You die, right? Verse 7, right? Like, then shall the dust return, Ecclesiastes 12 and 7, then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto the Most High who gave it, right? Then, right, you jump into 2 Corinthians 5 and 10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of the Most High, of Yahushai, right? So you die, your spirit goes into the heavens, right? And then you stand before the judgment seat, right? So that everyone may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad, right? And then verse 16, Ecclesiastes 3:16 says, and moreover I saw under the sun the place of judgment, right? So that's the cycle, okay? You die, go into spirit realm, you get judged, and you come back to earth to for that judgment to be executed. And that's what we've experienced as a nation, right? Let's jump to Micah 7 and 9, right? It says, I will bear the indignation of Yahweh because I've sinned against him, right? Not just in this life, but in previous lives. And that's, that's why, an individual child may be born, right? And they'll be born effed up, right? Because in their previous life, they were doing the most, and the Most High, as we're reading in Ecclesiastes 3:16, is judging them, right? You can also read Exodus 20 on that, right? Third and fourth generation, right? It says, so back in Micah 7 and 9, I'll bear the indignation of Yahweh because I've sinned against him until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to light, and I shall behold his righteousness, right? So that's what we see here, right? And then more so just on in what that individual was saying, right? As Isaiah 14 and 21 says, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. Now we've got to stop there, right? Because when you read Ezekiel, right, it says this, right? It says Ezekiel 18 and 4, right? It says, behold, all souls are mine, as the soul of the Father. Is there more in it? But I mean, that's the point. So also are the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die, right? So you don't basically have, I'm trying to say, yeah, it's a bit more. It is in there, yeah. So Ezekiel 18 and 19. Yet say ye, why Doth not the Son bear the iniquity of the Father? When the Son hath done that which is lawful and right, and hath kept all my statutes, and hath done them, he shall surely live. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. The Son shall not bear the iniquity of the Father, neither shall the Father bear the iniquity of the Son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him. So when we read Isaiah 14 and 21, what is this a contradiction? No. Once again, that's why the understanding of reincarnation is integral to the scriptures, right? Because once again, you are your father, right? Spiritually, right? It says, nor possess the land, right? It says, Isaiah 14 and 21, prepare slaughter for his children, the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities, right? So yeah, you are your father, and that's ultimately why, right? You what you call it? You're ultimately gonna be judged, right? Israel, we got judged as a nation, and you heathens, you gonna be judged as a nation for the things that you've done in this life and previous lives. Okay, so no semantics ain't gonna save you on this one. Okay, as always, what I was advanced. Next time we say shalom.